Hey, welcome back to Money Matters. I am Emily Johnson, joined by David Crowell, and we have been discussing this proposed Tax Reform Act and some of the anticipated ramifications should it actually pass, and the ramifications both globally and also perhaps on your pocketbook. So I want one thing, and this is a little bit tangential. We didn't really address it in the first part of the show, but one thing that the why and how it might impact you is the discussion that, and not just from a global level, but directly, is the discussion about including 401ks in this Tax Reform Act as sort of part of the fat on the back end that Republicans may or may not want to concede, that if this Tax Reform Act is helping wealthier individuals, then perhaps they need to dig in some other areas. And the fact that they could even consider including 401ks in something like this, when, I mean, I can see, and you see it all the time, the fact that trying to even get individuals to save money is very difficult, especially as, you know, as fixed expenses go up, especially younger folks with young children and those expenses. It is really hard to try to motivate individuals to save money, even if you're screaming and yelling about the power of compounding and what the likelihood is that Social Security is going to still exist, all of these factors. It's really hard. 401ks are one of the best and only tools that's available right now. You actually usually have some sort of employer match that's considered free money that goes with it. Just the thought that that could actually be included in some sort of a negative way is just such a slap in the face, I feel like, to the responsible American public that is trying to do the right thing and trying to put a few dollars away here, a few dollars away there for a responsible future. Just, to me, that was an irksome aspect. So I would keep an eye on that. And right now you can contribute, in fact, as we get to the end of the year, you should consider, you as a participant can contribute up to $18,000 or $24,000 if you're over 50. And usually, like I said, there's some sort of an employer match. Next year that goes up to $18,500. It could be, however, that you don't receive the same tax benefits. Anyway, just the fact that most people, especially those that we work with, will come to us with a 401k and a house, and those are their only assets.
Now, that's an example of exactly what I wanted to talk about in the second
We planned
segment,
this so well.
Because what Emily just eloquently did was to show one of the 100 or 150 arguments for a specific tax exemption or tax deduction and its defensibility or indefensibility. She argued eloquently that one of the mainstays of the struggling middle class is its ability to have tax-protected dollars in a 401k. Now,
that oftentimes are automatically
But there are another 150 of those.
Right.
So she argued eloquently, keep your hands off the 401k, is what she just said. Okay, says the Republican drafter of the new Tax Reform Act, I'll keep my hands off the 401ks, but I'm going to go after this and this and this and this, because remember, I have a fact. It has to come from somewhere. So I'll wipe out the tax credits and the tax deductions for adoption. I think we could probably find somebody to come on the show and argue eloquently against that practice. How about people who own houses with mortgages? I'm in the mortgage business. With mortgages that have greater than $10,000 worth of mortgage interest.
Or second homes.
Or second homes. But a primary home that has more than $10,000 worth of interest, the deduction would go away. 2 years from now...
Would it be capped at the 10? Or it would
2 years from now, there would be no second home interest allowed, and there would be no houses allowed greater than $500,000. No mortgages allowed greater
right
than
now,
$500,000.
just for what it's worth, right now it's up to $1 million.
It's $1 million.
And it's the interest on the million. It's not $1 million. It's the interest on $1 million.
It's the interest.
And that's a first home and a second home.
It disembowels one of the most treasured middle class tax deductions.
And motivating home buying and
Eric Trump and Don Jr. really don't benefit much by the mortgage home interest deduction. The middle class does. And it's one of those 100 to 150 little pecks and specks in the program that is absolutely on the table for elimination, or for at least 50% of the impact of it would be eliminated, and that impact is directly on the middle class. Another very important one for the elderly is, this has another constituency, a huge constituency that we will see in both of our businesses, is that an elderly person whose medical expenses are skyrocketing, who has a pension and Social Security income of combined $50,000 or $60,000, maybe a little bit of extra investment income. That person, at the present time, is able to deduct all medical expenses that go beyond 10% of their adjusted gross income. Well, it's very easy in this day and age to have $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000 or $50,000 worth of medical expenses greater than 10% of their AGI.
Right.
And that basically makes gives the elderly a major tax break, which is dependent upon.
it's not just the elderly. It's I mean, if you have a car accident, if you have a child that needs surgery, if any of those things.
But AARP, which is one of the, which next to Chamber of Commerce is one of the greatest lobbies in America, is one of the hugest constituency
Right.
lobbies, is dead against that little piece. So we each have the piece which we are adamantly certain should be a hands-off piece.
Right.
Okay,
course.
and there's a fair and just and equitable argument as to why you would keep the hands off the medical deduction, why you would keep the hands off the 401k, which I happen to totally agree with. And if the show ran for 2 hours, I could go through another 30 or 40 of these. We have a basic problem here. Most of the money, the heap of money, as I said last show, that comes right up to my neck, pile of gold coins this big, is in the corporate tax reduction. The help for the middle class is plus and minus, plus and minus, plus and minus. It's about zero. If you add all those middle class people that live in New York State, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and California, which is about 40% of the population of the country, all those middle class people are going to see their taxes go up. Every single one of them, because their state tax deduction, their local tax deduction, their home property tax deductions are all being wiped out by this tax plan. In California, Massachusetts, Connecticut, high tax states,
Liberal states.
high tax
High tax
states, the people are living, breathing human beings just like you and I. They are not liberal or conservative. They're not, I mean, they are human beings.
Agreed.
And their taxes are going up. So every politician that comes on the television and says that this is a middle-class tax cut is not telling the truth.
What's not across the board.
Is obfuscating, is hyperbolizing, is, by any other word, lying.
We're giving David his soapbox today.
No,
It's
we're
fine.
not. No, we're not. No, we're not. If 50% of the middle class or 40% of the middle class has taxes going up and the others have taxes going down, and both.
Well, let's think a little bit about the fact that taxes are off of a certain dollar. So the thought is, if there are more dollars coming in, then what you're not going to feel in your pocket is the more taxes going out. If your $1 becomes $2 because the economy's trotting along and you're making more money and your employer and pay raises actually take place, because right now real wages, despite our 3% quarterly increases for the last 2 quarters. It ain't happening. I mean, people are not earning more relative to what the cost of living is. But if they do, then perhaps they wouldn't mind paying that extra few percentage because their income should be going up proportionately more.
And I absolutely agree. So I'm not on my soapbox. I'm trying to link the various aspects of a very complex tax.
You think it happens?
Tax proposals are very complicated. They have lots of little bits and pieces. So I was simply trying to link it back to.
Do you think it happens? What's our vote?
I think a version of it happens.
Something happens?
Something happens.
We will know. We'll have lots more to talk about in the next few weeks. Please stick with us in future weeks for more Money Matters.